A gracious good day to faithful viewers as well as those on their maiden voyage with the Dismayed Gourmet. The Dismayed Gourmet is a guided tour through one gastronomical disappointment after another. But I was delighted to receive, as my assignment, tickets and respectable compensation for a particular cruise ship's lighter fare, which the liner called their pub food. I do believe my editor has come to assigning only things she knows I will hate because, as they say in the news business, if it bleeds, it leads. Anyway, leaving from Long Island Sound some few days ago was a gambling cruise, a pathetic leveraging of the American love of wagering from a disadvantage, and once having lost, becoming addicted to the exhilaration of a close call to riches. In my eyes, it is the apex of debauchery, this acceptance of loss in exchange for the passing thrill of possibility. These cruise lines, they putter out beyond the reach of liquor and gambling laws and then drop anchor while its passengers drop hundreds. I resign myself to this assignment as having been less unpleasant than my previous dozen or so, and I boarded the vessel. I was immediately charmed by the smell of the West Side piers and the attentiveness of the staff. I was hopeful for a pleasant sojourn, in spite of the high-profile diseases, murders, and drownings that have recently been commonplace aboard these oceanic gambling boats. Well, there was a lounge called the Captain's Quarters, and I made my way, courtesy of a map that was offered to me by a polite steward whose grin seemed pasted upon his face by layers of shellac. Preferring not to go too deeply into the menu of wraps and deep-fried meats and fish, I ordered, admittedly without much adventure, the cheddar cheeseburger with French fries, cooked medium so as to assure the assassination of any E. coli bacteria that might have been present. Well, would that the blackened char I was soon served had been autographed by such as Gretzky, Bossy, or Neely. I might not have had such a difficulty accepting the ebony lump that sat before me. The jaws of life could not have penetrated the exoskeleton of this mummified chunk of former beef cattle. I rejected it out of hand and eyeballed the French fries. The French fries will have their own chapter in my undoing. They were rancid, undercooked, squared-off tubes of frozen potato, pale and sweaty as Richard Nixon's upper lip during the televised debates with JFK. Look them up if you haven't seen them. These French fries had nothing to do with anything French, nor anything fried. I gagged down several as part of my duty as a professional food critic, and I very nearly vomited. I didn't, but nearly did. Well, maybe a little bit, some paste, and perhaps I swallowed it. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I have blocked it out. As simple an order as it was, the butchers of the Atlantic that comprise the kitchen team at Caribbean Cruise Lines managed to fail at even the elementary task of preparing a cheeseburger with French fries. The question must be asked, my God, man! If you can't get a cheeseburger right, who is steering the boat? I occupied myself as best I knew how until we reached terra firma, from which I gratefully now broadcast. Truly and ever yours, the Dismayed Gourmet.